Let us know briefly about the reform measures undertaken as per the National Economic Policy 1991. Let's start with liberalization. It is one of the structural reform measure that was undertaken. As the word suggests, freedom. It was an act of letting go. The reforms or changes could be learnt under the following headings: industrial sector reforms, financial sector reforms, tax reforms, foreign exchange reforms, trade and investment policy reforms. As you know, during 1950-1990, the problem of what to produce and who will produce in terms of industries was completely under the control of government. Any new industry or expansion of existing industry totally dependent on availing a license from the government. There was a lot of limitations. Only certain goods could be produced by the private sector, and some goods were reserved to small scale industries. The government also controlled the way prices had to be fixed and how and to whom it has to be distributed. But liberalization changed these. Licensing was abolished. Industries no longer needed to avail license. There were some exemptions though. Goods such as alcohol, cigarettes, hazardous chemicals, industrial explosives, electronics, aerospace, and drugs and pharmaceuticals needed procuring of the license to produce. Public sector undertakings were left with only production of items related to defense equipment, atomic energy generation, and railway transport. Certain goods which were only meant for the small scale industries to produce were de-reserved. After 1991, anyone could produce those goods. It was decided that the government will not decide the prices. Instead, the market forces of demand and supply will play the major role in terms of determination of prices of goods. Financial sector reforms. These are the changes initiated regarding the commercial banks, investment banks, stock exchange operations, and foreign exchange market. Reserve Bank of India. It is the Central Bank of India. It is the one which regulates the financial sector through its monetary policy. It fixes the bank rate, repo rate, reverse repo rate, etc. in order to keep the financial aspects of the economy in a stable manner. It plays a major role in controlling inflation and deflation. Before 1991, RBI was more a regulating body that completely controlled the banks of the nation. But in 1991, it was decided that it should become a facilitator, which will help the banks regarding its financial operations. Other important changes were private sector banks and foreign banks were allowed to emerge in India. Foreign investment limit in banks was raised to around 74%. Setup of new branches of any existing bank without permission was allowed. We pay taxes to the government. Government's taxation and public expenditure policy is known as the fiscal policy, and they were also changed for better. Taxes are of two kinds, direct taxes and indirect taxes. It was decided that tax levied must be less in percent because too much tax made people not paying them properly. Reduction in percent of it was a way to encourage people to save or invest and disclose about it by themselves. Foreign exchange reforms. As we know, we encountered a situation wherein we faced a lot of problems in balance of payments. Our foreign exchange reserves, that is, the things that could be traded for a foreign currency by the RBI, had dropped. To solve this, Indian rupee was devalued. Suppose in foreign exchange market, for every dollar, for $1 we were paying 21 rupees. After devaluation, for every dollar 23 rupees would be paid. This was done to encourage exports and discourage imports. This led to increase in the foreign exchange reserves. Further, it was decided that the government will no longer control the value of rupee. Instead, it will be determined by the foreign exchange market in the future. Lastly, the changes that was initiated in terms of trade and investment policy reforms, especially regarding the export and import related changes. India moved away from protective trade policy, the restrictions that only this much quantity of goods must enter and exit the nation for purchases and sales by India was dismantled. That is, some changes were brought about in that matter. India started moving towards free trade. Tariff rates, the tax paid on imports, were reduced. The need to get license for importing was removed. But to import certain items which are hazardous and might cause harm to the environment still needed import licensing. Apart from quantitative restrictions, export duties had been removed so that our nation's products can have more scope to be sold on foreign market, and they grow as potential competitors in international space.